This is my live with Dr. Deborah MacNamara, and we'll be talking about a number of things that our babies and children would like us to know about them. So before I invite Dr. Deborah in, let me just quickly introduce her. And I'm sure a lot of you already know her through her book, Rest, Play, Grow. That's one of my favorite parenting books, together with Dr. Gordon Neufield's Hold On To Your Kids. And actually, Rest, Play, Grow is based on the relational and developmental approach of Dr. Gordon Neufeld. Dr. Deborah MacNamara did a postdoctoral internship with Dr. Gordon Neufeld, and now she's on faculty at the Neufeld Institute, as well as the director of Kids Best Bet, which is a counseling clinic for families. And she's also the coordinator and course facilitator for a number, if not all, of Dr. Neufeld's courses. She is also the author of The Sorry Plane, which I think has only just been released. So let's try and bring Dr. Deborah in. There we go. We have quite a few people here. That's nice to see all of you here.
Hello. Hi. Nice to see you.
Hi, Dr. Deborah. Lovely to see you. Thank you so much for joining me. I know it's quite early where you are.
It's 8:30 a.m.
8:30 in the morning.
This is we're already a couple of hours into our day, so don't worry.
Oh, I'm sure if you have kids, 8:30 a.m. is actually afternoon, isn't it?
It is.
Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. So there were so many people that were looking forward to this chat. I've received so many questions. We've been chatting a little bit before the live, and we've had a number of questions from all sorts of different themes, and we did have to kind of leave out some questions because it's just impossible to cover everything in the time that we have. So we're going to try and do as much as we can today. And if there is interest, Dr. Deborah kindly offered to come back at a later date for us to do a part 2 if we have to. So there is so much that I want to talk to you, Dr. Deborah, but one of the main reasons that I wanted to invite you in is because obviously in this crazy time that we are living at the moment with COVID-19 and everything, I've been receiving a lot of questions from parents worried about, one, homeschooling, two, working from home with kids around, and three, children being a lot more needy, a lot more demanding, wanting a lot more cuddles, some older breastfed children wanting to breastfeed a lot more, so wanting a lot more comfort than they would before all of that started happening. So I just wanted to have your thoughts on this. There's a few different questions into one here. So I guess the first one is homeschooling essential, and how does it compare to play? Is it something that parents should be really worried about, especially for very young kids? So I've received questions from parents of children aged 4 or 5 who shouldn't even be at school yet, and they are really panicking about their children getting behind with the whole homeschooling thing. They say they're not teachers, they're not good at that. So should they be really worried about that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm delighted to be here with you, and for organizing this, and for supporting parents and children at this time when life is turned upside down for everyone around the world to different degrees. So I'm delighted to be here and to join you and to try to help make sense of how we parent through these times. And even though we've never lived through a time like this, I would say for most people, I have not lived through a time like this before. I know that we can find a way through, given that human beings are adaptive. It doesn't mean that it's going to be pain-free, and it doesn't mean that we're not going to face confusion and ambiguity. We are capable of finding our way through tremendous change. And so a lot of your questions really are about the tremendous changes that we find ourselves in. Homeschooling, okay, now we've got our kids here at home and they're without their teachers. They're wonderful teachers who we've come to appreciate in a whole new way when we think about having to be the answer to education for our children. And I just want to back up a little bit. Because if you're a developmentalist, your biggest concern is actually how do we create the conditions that are conducive to a child realizing their full potential? And the first thing that we know that's important in that is human relationships. Human relationships are critical. And so that must be the fifth thing that is in the first and foremost of our mind is our relationships and preserving that. Schooling can't happen without relationship. Learning doesn't happen without relationship. Nothing happens without relationship. We're not freed from our preoccupation for contact and closeness without feeling safe in our relationships. So in the order of what is most important in a child's life right now, we cannot forget that everything rests in our relationship. So that has to take up a lot of space in terms of thinking about how we do this. In play, children learn lots about life. They learn lots about numbers, colors. Many children even will teach themselves to potentially read or understand patterns. The more they enjoy books, the more they enjoy, sitting on your lap with books. Actually, it's interesting. All the research on reading actually shows the more books you have in your house, the more parents read, the more inclined a child is to read. It's relationship. It's not sitting them down and drilling in sounds and things like this. Learning happens best in the context of relationship. And so we have that now in terms of being at home with our kids. We have contact and closeness, but do we work on relationships? So what I'm trying to say in a very easy way to put it is that learning is secondary to the ultimate developmental agenda, which is relationships and rest and play. I don't think we have to push forward on a hard learning agenda. I think our children are going to learn lots from us. Their vocabulary improves when you talk to them and you use your words and you have dinners together, when you explore the world together, when you invite them into play. They are learning. They are not, yes, we may have to catch up on some things. Hey, we're all on the same boat. But to forge ahead, everyone is, but to forge ahead and thinking that learning is the most important thing right now doesn't understand human needs. So I would say just go easy on this. My kids are in high school and in critical years actually for thinking about university entrance and stuff. And I've just resigned myself to the fact that this is just about getting through this.
Right.
There's lots of time to get ahead. There's lots of time to study and learn. But we've got to be able to concentrate. We got to have our relationships taken care of. We need to play to express all of our emotions. Life is not as it was. Things have to change. And in the developmental agenda, learning is not high on the scale.
Right.
So I'd say go easy on yourself. Yeah, go easy on yourself as parents. Don't put that pressure on.
Sure. There is a phrase, and I can't remember now whether it was from your book, where it says parents push outcome-based activities without understanding that play is the birthplace of individuals. And, I've been receiving a lot of messages or just talking to people in general, mothers worried about, I haven't got a play group to go to, even mothers of young babies that, we're looking forward to the baby massage classes and to, all those activities outside of the home, all these structured activities that maybe for them gave them some sense of kind of structure and of having something to go to. And now they are worried because they don't know what to do. What do I do with a child the whole day in my house? How do I play for all this time? And how do I fit in work? So people worry that they don't have these places to go now.
Yeah, well, that sure resonates with me. I tell you, my mummy groups, my sign language groups, my music stuff that I went to with my kids, just having something to look forward to get ready for, to get out of the house, to be expected somewhere, to have an adult to have a conversation with, is so important for us as parents and helps us. So I absolutely get that. And so the question of what do we do all day at home? I mean, I do think that we have some allowances to different degrees to get out of the house, and that is important still to whatever degree that we can or we are allowed is to get out of the house because it is important to have that movement and to have the fresh air and to have a little bit of connection out with nature and, to see other human beings, even if it's from far away. So, I remember when I was, because when I stayed home with my children in their first year of life, I went from being in a university where I was on faculty and, all sorts of work stuff. And I remember looking at my baby thinking, what am I going to do all day with you? Like, do I get you dressed? Do you stay in your pajamas all day? And some of the people that I learned the most from were actually daycare providers, nannies, and preschool teachers. When I watched how they took care of young children, something that was foreign to me because I was in the workplace and, responsible for all sorts of things, I thought, I don't know how to do this. And so I watched other people who do this for a living. And I realized certain things. Number one is they don't have any great expectations to move quickly. They just, they're much more in the moment, a lot of them, just focusing on the child and being okay with being there and realizing that no great feats have to get done as long as they're taking care of the child. I learned from them that they had some sort of sense of structure and routine in their head, albeit they could change it here and there. That, morning time was for play or outdoor time, and then maybe we did a little bit of this or that, or we had lunch, then we had story time, then we had a nap. They seemed to have a sort of a momentum to their day or some sort of structure, routine in their head that they were following. It didn't always mean it came to pass. And that provided me a lot of comfort in terms of I knew how the day would take a shape. I knew I knew what to look forward to each moment rather than a huge long day that seems, how am I going to get through this day? It's only 8:30 a.m. And to think about breaking your day into smaller pieces. Oh, okay, lunchtime. Looking forward to the change that lunch brings. Oh, it's time for a book. Oh, okay. And just being able to have that sort of momentum where you're just living in the moment, if you can, with your child and moving through the day, and not having greater expectations to get other things done. And so these are some of the things that I think are most important. And life will slow down. You will need adult contact. And so you'll have to find some space and time to get that done. I think it's an incredibly impossible task to think that we are going to function well as parents to take care of kids and work for some other employer at the same time. This is a recipe for incredible futility and frustration. It's impossible. I think we do our best with it. I think we have to realize that it is futile. Of course, we can't say that to our employers where we need our jobs right now more than anything. If you have another partner around or someone else in the home or other children who are older, then certainly you can trade off and anticipate, how you can move your day so you can get pockets of time to get your work done and to try to flow that way. There was a time when we worked primarily from the home, like 150 years ago, the main place of work was the home. And it shows you how far we've come from those days. It makes you understand why people had like 10 children as well, because there was a lot more bodies to help out in the home. Laundry and dishes and stuff. And now I have teenagers. I'm like, we're going to work. And they're doing a lot more work around the house.
You were talking about the futilities and how it's impossible to kind of expect that we are going to do both things well. So do you think that is the reason why children are so frustrated? Because I'm hearing from so many parents saying my child is having massive tantrums, big emotions, and I'm there all day. But I think what sometimes people don't understand is that being there is not really enough. You're there, but the TV is on the whole time with the news, and you are focusing on that, or you are trying to work and trying to do everything at the same time. And I think children sense that, don't they? They sense that anxiety and that kind of trying to do everything. So is that the reason you think why there's so many more big emotions going on at the moment?
Yeah, well, I certainly think that's part of it. I mean, there are so many reasons why our emotional systems are stirred up. Yes, when we are worried about finances, when we're missing people, when we're worried about our health, we're worried about people we love who and their health issues and keeping safe. We're worried about the supply of food. I mean, what are we not worried about right now? Let's just put it in that scale. I mean, these are huge when it comes to the emotional system for the human being. You couldn't pick a bigger you couldn't pick bigger content to be emotionally provocative if you tried. Like, we got them all right now. And so, yes, we're stirred up, and I think we're preoccupied, and our children pick up on that. We can't also forget that from a child's point of view, for a lot of them, their life has been turned upside down. If they had care providers in their life that took care of them, they're missing them. They're missing the structure and routine of their life. They're missing friends at school. They're missing their teachers. They're missing recess. They're missing, gym class. They're missing, their life has been turned upside down as well. And so they are facing lots of futilities. It is a time for lots of tears. But the problem is that we are so emotionally overwhelmed. And, even as I try to go to help my children with their disappointments, I feel like I have to, like, okay, put your worries aside for a minute and focus on them. This is about their worries, their frustration. And I can feel that I am more emotionally charged and having to be more patient because I am also facing tons of futility. And so I think it's all a big mess. Yes, everybody's got change. Everybody's facing futility. It's a time for tears, but we're too alarmed half the time to cry. They squeak out of us sometimes. Some of us have beautiful tears, and sometimes some people are thinking, why am I always crying? Because we're having lots of change, and that's the body system trying to adapt and trying to find a way through. But there's other ways too, So no, I think what I hear, people are stirred up. We are absolutely stirred up. Frustration, alarm, lots of clingy type pursuit with our kids as well. We have to expect this. We're not going crazy or losing our sanity. It's just we're emotionally overwhelmed.
And we are trying to keep this sense of kind of normality for our children because we don't want, I guess it depends on their age, doesn't it? But little ones, we don't want, they don't really need to know exactly what is going on, do they?
No.
And I think we are trying to keep things normal for them as much as we can. But at the same time, we also need our tears. And that's one of the things that I love about your work, because I hear from a lot of people, a lot of parents saying, how do I fix that? How do I fix the tantrums? How do I stop them? And how do I discipline my child? Because if I let them behave that way, they will think it's acceptable and will always be doing that. But what I really love about your work is the fact that you say how much actually tantrums and emotional expression is so important, and it's part of their development, and they need to have those big, emotions, their tears, they need to come out, don't they? And it's very hard, I know, because I have a 2-year-old, and the tantrums, at that time, at that moment in time when it's happening, it's so hard to keep calm and just try and collect your child, like you say, and just try to be the calm presence around them. But that's what we have to do, isn't it?
Yes, and it is hard. And it is hard when you are facing so much frustration in your own life. It will be more challenging for sure. But yeah, I think to your point, what you're saying is that there's an idea that we have to get our kids to cut it out, to stop being frustrated, that it's not okay to have this emotion, that it's not okay to be upset about something. It's not okay to cry about something, that's just the way life is. Get over it, suck it up, don't be so dramatic. I mean, all of these kind of messages, what they really have at the core is saying, it's not okay to have this emotion. It's not okay to hit. That's still a message. It's not okay to hurt another person or, attack someone with your words. Aggression is not okay. But in that message of that behavior isn't okay, what we actually communicate to a child is that emotion is not okay. Do you know how many adults that I've worked with who don't think, who feel badly about themselves when they feel frustrated, when they feel that attacking energy inside of themselves and say, that sense of, I just want to get it off my chest. They can't find their words. They're afraid of hurting somebody. And so they either stuff it down, they cut it, and it combusts out of them. We get this, what people say, oh, they're passive or aggressive. Yes, that's what happens when you push down on your frustration. If you don't have a relationship with it, one of the best things we can say to our children is, you have frustration. I see that. I understand it. Well, can I have this? Well, no. I'm going to help you with your frustration though. it's such a different message. So yes, does a 2 or a 3 or a 4 or 5-year-old have lots of frustration sometimes? Not lots, but I mean, in the sense of they're facing futilities. They can't always get what they want. They can't change your mind. They have limits and restrictions. They can't always be first. You can't always play with them. You can't give them always what they want. Yes, these are part of life. They don't come programmed with this. They don't come dialed in with this. So how do we get them to help understand the futilities of life? When we can help them to their tears, when we can help acknowledge the frustration. They might have some yells. If they're under 3, it'll probably be quite physical. By the time they're 3, you keep saying, use your words, and they're saying, I hate you, mommy, you poo-poo face, whatever it is. And you're going to get some verbal frustration over the age of 3 likely. And then by the time the child moves into 5 to 7 years of age and everything's going well, the brain starts to temper, and you'll start to see, and oh, and I half like you, and oh, and you see this mixing of emotion where the frustration is held back by caring, and the caring and the frustration can start to mix together. That's what gives us patience. That's what gives us impulse control. But children at the age of 5 to 7 don't have impulse control. They don't control their emotions. Their emotions control them. This is what we don't get about the young child. They're under control of their emotions. And then we're like, well, I've got to teach you a lesson. No, the lesson that's needed is to understand the words for the emotions that they have. That is, in the order of developmental necessity, the most important. They will need to be helped to their tears, to let go of the fact they can't always get what they want. You're not going to change your mind. But we can be patient and calm through that. I mean, who doesn't want another cookie? Maybe cookies are worth crying about. I think so. They're pretty good. And so, you got to have your tears about all the cookies you can't necessarily have.
And that's the problem, isn't it? If we know that something works, so if a reward works, we tend to start using that continuously because it's just easy. And it's easy for us, and we think, oh, it resolves the immediate problem. But what people are not seeing is that's long term. That's not teaching our children anything useful, is it? It's not teaching them that they are allowed to express their emotions, and that they are allowed to express their emotions with us, with their parents, and we are there for them. And that's I think the big message about, allowing negative emotions to come out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have teenagers now, right? So I've been doing this since they were preschoolers. But, the fact that we can have, conversations about things that don't work with their friends. Yes, I'm frustrated, Mom, and I just want to tell her this, or I just want to deal with it this way. Okay, hold on to that. What would that mean if you do that? Well, oh yeah, well, okay. And you walk it through. And so instead of just reacting out of your emotions, as an adult, you should become more mature. But if you don't lay the foundation, if you don't lay the framework where you are helping your child with their emotions, how will they turn to you in the teenage years when they need you? In their adult years, how do they turn to you now when they
they won't turn to you, will they? They'll turn to their peers.
Or what we see is they turn to substitutes to anesthetize their emotion. Alcohol and drugs, addictions of any kind, whether it be shopping or sexual addictions. We are in trouble. If you look at what is going on with our youth and our populations, we are in trouble. Right now, you see signs that addiction and alcohol use and children being hurt and abused right now is on the increase. Why? Because we're frustrated. We need to have a relationship with our frustration. Our children can't bear the brunt of it. And our gift to them is to help them understand their emotions so that they can deal with them in responsible ways. It may sound so simple to help your child find their tears around a cookie today. But I can tell you, when it comes to the bigger disappointments in life and being emotionally mature and responsible, this is the foundation.
Perfect. So linked to that a little bit, I think you said that we have this rush to make them independent and make them learn, and we want to teach them so much on them. They have to learn a lesson, and that's one thing that I see a lot in my work. And it comes from the time that you have a baby, doesn't it? You have a baby. The moment you have a baby, people are already worried whether they're sleeping through the night. They tell us to stop holding them too much. Then why are they still on your bed? Why they're still breastfed, why they're still in their nappies. And there is this big sentiment that the children must be independent fast, that we must make them independent. And the other thing that you hear a lot is that it's people asking you, are they a good child? Are they a good baby? Are they well behaved? And people have this idea that for a child to be good, they have to be well mannered, say thank you and sorry, but they want to rush that process. They don't want to wait for it to happen naturally, because they think it's their responsibility. And I think that idea from society and from books and from wherever we get those ideas, they really hurt parents, because parents end up thinking that they have broken their babies, that they now have to fix their babies, that, you know, they did something wrong. There is something that I'm not doing right, so I need to fix it. And then they go to the experts, you know, the experts, they go to certain books or to certain experts who promise to help them, to give them the answer, the solution, the magic solution. And the problem with that, I think, is that they forget that the parent is the answer. And that's something that you say a lot, that you are the answer to your child. And I think that's a very, very strong message. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts about why it's not a bad thing for children to be dependent on us.
Yeah, well said. I love just listening to you talk about this. I mean, it's exactly it.
I've just read your book a few times. I read more than you felt.
I actually think you're a developmentalist at heart. I just think this is who you are. I don't have the secrets on the developmental agenda there. We all have this, and I think you are this at heart. And there are a lot of people out there who probably follow you that are true developmentalists, in the sense that we don't believe that we go it alone. You know, here's the thing. I remember Gordon Neufeld saying, and it always struck me as the most, you know, beautiful analogy, is that the apple seed looks nothing like the apple tree. The apple seed looks nothing like the fruit it will bear. We have no idea the secrets that lie in that apple seed in terms of the beautiful apples and fruit that it will deliver, that will deliver back to the earth and deliver back the nutrition and the goodness and the nourishment back to the world. And so we must not forget that nature has a role in this. We don't go this alone as parents, and experts don't have all the answers. Nature has the answers. Nature gave and delivered to us this imprint to grow, not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically. But what the apple seed needs, just as every child needs, is a good, solid foundation to grow in. It needs the right conditions. It needs the right nurturance. It needs a guardian to take care of their heart, you know, and to nourish in the fullest sense. And so we must be not necessarily even patient. We must trust. We must trust that nature has been doing this far long before we had pandemics in our history, long before you know, there were wars. We've been doing this. Nature has been growing human beings forever. And yet we forget this. As parents, we forget this. We become, I don't know if arrogant is the word to use, but we become arrogant, thinking that we are the only thing that gives life to our child. We are not. We are not. Our children have the potential for growth. And so my question to every parent is what is it that you must do to nurture that? And so independence, then, if you understand that, then it's very easy to understand that independence is not your focus. Independence is the fruit of good development. I don't yell at my apple tree to hurry up, get growing. What's the matter with you? I'll give you some more fertilizer if you promise to be good, you know, and grow up and all the rest of it. I'm not out there rewarding or pushing or prodding. I don't have to, because I already believe that growth is there. I already know it will come. I already know that today's immaturity can transform into tomorrow's maturity. I know that. Why? Because I've certainly had that path. You know, yesterday I thought I was, you know, mature. Today I'm like, oh, I think you might be a little bit more, you know, immature. And every day you realize, oh, I'm still immature. Yes, because every day you are still developing and growing. And so it is true with our children. We don't have to be in a push to grow them. Our job is to facilitate the dependence, to build the roots, to anchor them into relationship, and to anchor them into their emotional system, and anchor them into safety, into trust, into guidance, into food, into shelter. Because the relationship is the psychological womb within which we grow a child in the outside world. And that we cannot lose sight of. But everybody wants, if we ask parents, what do you want for your kids? We want them to grow up to be mature, socially responsible, independent, being able to chart their own course, being adaptive, being able to contribute, being emotionally responsible. These are all wonderful goals that we all agree on. We don't disagree on that. But some people think that the answer is to push in that direction and to prod and to get them to grow up quickly. And some people are developmentalists who say this is something that nature has always taken care of. How do I be a good gardener here to raise my child? And what do I need to do this way? Knowing that development will come. You talk to grandparents. Grandparents have a perspective on life that is different from parents. There is such, oftentimes, and many wise grandparents and elders are like, this will come, this will pass, they will learn, you'll find your way through. And yet we seem to lose that perspective. And so, you know, dependence isn't to be worried about. That's exactly, when we're rooted, we grow, and that's where our focus needs to be.
Right. There is a phrase, I think it was from Gordon Newfield, that says that the key to parenting is insight and not skill. So I think, I'm not sure whether that's a phrase that is targeted at, you know, all those experts, all the search from answers in books and all of that, and trying to find the perfect recipe and trying to teach children a certain skill, but actually it's all about us knowing our children, isn't it? And the whole thing that you talk so much about, the attachment, the relationship, and I think that's the key.
Yeah, it is the key. And I think why, you know, and certainly that is Gordon's quote, that it's about insight and not skill. The reason insight is about attached to your eyes. What do you see when you look at your child? How do you understand their emotions? Like, if we're guided by our eyes rather than our head, what do I do? What's my skill? How do I fix this? Because we're not a car, you know, like it's not an inanimate object. We have emotions, we have instincts. As soon as you have emotion and instinct, you've got to start using your insight. You got to use your own emotional system. Why? Because we're much more complex. Everybody has a very distinct emotional fingerprint. And so parents were born with the capacity, all of us are born with the capacity to understand each other emotionally. And we need to use that. And so insight is about using your relationship and your understanding of the child and their world and your emotions to make sense of your child. Why? Because that's how you become their answer. Only you understand a child this way. There's only very few people probably in that child's life that is going to understand a child this way, right? And so this is how you become the expert on your child. I know skill doesn't make you more mature. It doesn't. I know lots of people who've had lots of wonderful lessons on how to behave, how to get it right, what to say, but they're not mature. It falls down. You know, when they don't have their tricks, the treats, or the reward, it falls down. I want my kids to do the right thing when nobody's looking. I want them to be mature from the inside out, and not from this idea that the world rewards them when they behave well, right? No. And one thing I will say about this pandemic is that it is revealing maturity, and it reveals character in many ways in our leaders. It reveals who they are from the inside out, and how they lead, and what comes out of them in times of great stress. Is there emotional maturity? Is there a time to lead people and to be vulnerable but steadfast? And you see this, you see the emotional maturity falls apart at times like this. It is revealing, because it is the only thing that you have to really lean on is this sense of self that is developed. And it's so important. And if you are struggling, of course, it's important to lean on other people that can help you at this time as well, right? So anyway, not to go off topic, but yeah, this is insight is what delivers us to our child, and not a set of skills, a set of strategies. If you're having to look at the refrigerator for the top 10 things you should do, your child doesn't have a parent. They have someone who's following someone else's instructions. A leader is someone who, it comes from the inside out, and your child will lean on you in such a different way, because you're not looking for someone to guide you. You are the guide.
And talking of which, that's one thing that I've also read on your book about the parents leading the relationship. And I
Mm-hmm.
work with a lot of
Mm-hmm.
families who are, you know, attachment families, very gentle, respectful families.
Yeah.
And a lot of them seem to think that you have to be, that being baby led or being child led is the
Mm-hmm.
only way of being respectful to your child. But you actually
Mm-hmm.
say the opposite, don't you? That it's
Mm-hmm.
important for us to have that presence as a leader for our child to see us as the guiding person in their lives.
Yes, I would say that I find a lot of parents who come to a relational focus in terms of raising children are deeply caring, empathetic parents, and it's a beautiful thing for their children. It is a gift to have such a soft heart. It is a gift for a child to have parents who care so dearly about them and who are concerned about relationship. That is, I can't even put into words how important this is for a child, that caring, that deep caring. I think what gets lost in that is that we forget or we don't seem to have an understanding that to be a leader and to be caring at the same time can somehow go together. That you are not truly a leader unless you are caring. Leadership is not authoritarian dictatorship and just being in charge. That's not what a true leader is. A leader is someone who has the hearts of their people. And so to be a leader in your home means that you guide, you influence, you direct. You're not afraid to take the lead for your child in their when it comes to their best interests, to meet their needs and not their demands, and to be able to say no when it's required, and to be able to advocate for your child when it's required. The idea that we would just follow our children's needs. I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm scared. Actually, if that was the repeated sort of ethos in the house, a theme in the house, you actually will lead, it could potentially lead to greater insecurity in the child. Why? Because the child is put in charge of navigating what it is they need. You cannot rest if you have to tell someone what you need. If my husband says to me, "What do you want for dinner?" and I have to tell him, "Okay, well, this, and make this and use this recipe," I'm like, "Oh, just forget it. I'll make it myself." If he just says, "I got dinner covered, just show up for dinner," I'm like, oh, "Okay," and I rest. It's a different feeling. You'll know it yourself. So the more we
Yeah.
turn our children into consultants, the more they have to tell us, "Well, I'm scared." They'd never do anything. Sometimes our sensitive ones, I've got sensitive kids. They would never walk back by a loud construction site because it's too noisy. They'd never do uncomfortable things. They wouldn't go to the dentist. They wouldn't brush their teeth if it's too uncomfortable. Why? Because it's too much. Because I don't want to. It's scary. It's noisy. No, you need to lead. I need to lead them in through these things. I need to lead them past these things, knowing that they will be taken care of, that I don't use my leadership to hurt them, but I do have to lead. And so I think what has happened is that, parents' authoritarianism in the past had led to a lot of children feeling really hurt, and I think out of a reaction to that, we don't want to hurt our kids. And also because we deeply care about them, we don't want to hurt your kids. And I get that. That's wonderful. But don't fail to lead in that. Don't fail to show up. No, this is going to be a no. Be generous with their emotions. And that's fine. We'll get through it. But mommy has to say no to this. That is what a
Is
true
it
leader is. You rest in their care.
is it different for a baby? So, you know, we hear a lot
Mm-hmm.
about baby led things, being baby led. And I guess a
Mm-hmm.
baby is all about those immediate needs. And I have a lot of followers with babies.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering
Mm-hmm.
whether, you know, if it's a baby,
Yeah.
should we be baby led? Should we just answer to all the demands because the demands are actually needs?
Well, I mean, we're always paying attention to our baby's needs and our children's needs, and we're trying to act and fulfilling their needs. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not saying anything different from that, that we're watching our children and saying, this is what they need, and I'm going to provide, or I'm going to say no, or I'm going to, whatever you're going to do with that need, you've got to figure out how to answer it. What happens with babies is that by the time, all the way up until about 9 months, most babies are not usually aware of their uh, impact in the world in terms of cause and effect. But particularly at the age of 9 months, children have a sense of cause and effect. They have enough permanency to know that when they do this, this happens. And so they have a lot more will and direction at that time, which is wonderful. What is important is that for the child's perception, what gets their needs met is not that they had to ask for them, but that we were ready and more generous to provide. And so the onus is really on us to lead and to read the needs. When we're saying baby led, we're implying that the baby is leading us. Now, it is true that we're paying attention to their needs, of course, but the leadership comes from within you to take care of the needs. Mm-hmm. The baby isn't leading you in this sense. You are, so it might just be a word issue. I think we might be saying the same thing. Of course, we're paying attention, but I wouldn't wait for my child to signal that they're hungry necessarily. I might not. I might push, things into structure, order, and routine. I wouldn't wait for my preschooler to tell me when they're hungry. I wouldn't necessarily wait all the time for them to do the pee-pee dance before I took them to the bathroom. I might, decide I'm going to go out to the park. Before we go out to the park, it'll 10 o'clock every day. We go to the bathroom, we wash our hands, we get a snack. Like, you decide how you want to have the shape of the day to take care of their needs. But if a child always had to ask for everything that they needed that was related to survival, I think you'd have a more insecure child.
Sure. Okay, so just to finalize, Dr. Deborah, I just wanted to go back a little bit to play. And, we've talked about the big emotions, and we know that they happen whether we are in the middle of a crisis or not. Young children have, well, we all do, don't we? But they express their emotions in a very dramatic way sometimes. And parents don't know how to deal with that. And at the moment, I'm seeing in my work a lot of bedtime battles as well. And, that happens anyway. At certain ages, you see that a lot. But I think at the moment, I'm seeing it a lot more with parents being there but not being available. And I just wanted to ask you, how can play help with all of that, with expressing emotions?
Well, bedtime is about separation, so this is a difficult time. Some parents just, lie and sleep with them, some co-sleep. We can do lots of different arrangements to take care of their needs at night. And so some parents will need to work at night. That's probably a big thing for some parents, is that they're having to get work done at night. They're caring for their kids all day. And so kids can sense that when you need to get away, or that you're really tired and you need a break, and everybody's kind of exhausted, I think, at the end of the day. So we're this sense of, I just want some rest. And so children can sniff out that separation. What we know about facing separation is that the less real it feels to a child, often the better it is, in the sense that it doesn't provoke so much emotions like stay, don't go, or whatever. So play is a place that isn't for real. And so play is actually a wonderful way to ease into the bedtime. Now, every parent has to know their own child. Some play will stir them up and they'll be harder to get to rest. But play could be simply, reading your books, telling stories, making up a story, singing songs, staying with your child, making it about contact and closeness, and play your way into bedtime instead of to do this now. I have to go, and this sort of intensity around bedtime. Sorry, my phone, I just have to plug in here. This intensity around bedtime, where we just have to get them to bed and to get it to happen quickly, because that just provokes more separation, right? So play our way into bedtime. In fact, when you look at the saddest music written, it's actually lullabies. Lullabies are sad songs often. I would sing my kids, Leaving on a Jet Plane, Puff the Magic Dragon, all these songs that were about separation. And I didn't realize it till I learned this later, is that I was playing with separation, but in song, I'm leaving on a jet plane, I won't come back again. My favorite one was the Wimbaway song, the Lion Sleeps Tonight, the African song, Hush My Darling, Don't You Cry, the Lion Sleeps Tonight. I actually looked that up, and the reality is that the lion doesn't sleep at night. The lion actually hunts at night and has wonderful eyesight and vision. But the lullaby is, hush, my darling, don't you cry. It's all about this invitation to sleep through play, and I'll take the lead, and you're facing separation one step removed. You're not saying, go to sleep, I can't handle you. I need to get my work done. You're saying, I'll see you in the morning. This is our song. And you're playing out the emotions of separation before you go to bed. Oftentimes I would bridge when my kids were older and I didn't lie with them so much, or they got older. Often, to be honest with you, I just usually laid with my kids till they went to sleep because that's just what they needed. I
Yeah.
got sensitive kids,
Yeah.
and I just
That's
did
what I
that, and I
did.
made it a time of play and a time of fun and a time of contact and closeness. And even still with my teens now, I'm finding I need to spend more time at night now with them, going to bed and starting some back of those things that we did when they were younger, just because they're more alarmed, and this is helping with the transition to bedtime. So don't make bedtime a battle. If you can put some play, if you can put some enjoyment and contact and closeness, you do represent that this is nighttime. We are going to stay in bed. No, we do have to, we are going to do this, and mommy's got a story, or no, we're going to be quiet. I'm just going to lie here. Whatever it is that you need to do. Focus on connection, focus on tomorrow, talk about the plan for the day. It's all about contact and closeness. It's not about separation, even though we must face the separation to go to bed.
And I shared my latest post actually is a PDF document that you have on your
Oh, yeah.
website to download. And I shared that, which is exactly about that, how to bridge that separation. And it gives you
Right.
a number of ways of how to
Right.
bridge the separation and how to focus on the next
Yeah.
connection. And I
That's
really
right.
like the idea of that you're not focusing on and that serves not only for bedtime, but any type of separation. You're not focusing
Yeah.
just on the goodbye. You're not focusing on going to sleep. You're focusing on what we're going to do when you wake up in the morning and the next
Yeah.
connections. And I think that's really nice. I really like it.
Yeah. And that's how you take the lead. That's how you take the lead in a caring and compassionate way. And that's how your children feel safe, is because you're leading them into bedtime. The more needy they are, the more they're telling you what to do, and I need this and I need this, the less that you're responding to their needs, the more needy they get. The more you take the lead and I'll take care of you, the more generosity, the more invitation you have, the more that you figure out this dance with your children. I mean, one of my kids just needed to be touched until she fell asleep. That was true for her as a baby, as it is true for her as she grew up. And so there was no cry it out. This business just leave you on your own. It was like, you need to be touched, and I'm here, and I'll help you with this. And I knew what she
Yeah.
needed. I read the cues, and I realized she was a tactile kid. The other one needs stories. She needs sounds. She needs music because that soothes her. And so I paid attention to the signals, and I provided. But I didn't let on that I was reading the cues. I was just arrogant, like I knew what they needed in the sense, in the best way possible. I know what you need. You need another story. You need another song. Mommy's got just what you need. Meanwhile, I've been picking up, that this is what I can see. It what brings her to rest. I can see her ease into the night, where the more stories or songs she has, this was the magic for her. The other one just needed to be touched.
And that's why a one size fits all approach,
Yes,
it doesn't work, does it? Every child is there.
it
Even
does
your
not.
in one household, you have so many different
Yes,
personalities, and they need different things from us. So, and
that's
that's
right.
why we are the experts, aren't we? We know our
Right.
children best than anyone.
Absolutely. And we have the capacity to read and understand our children's needs like no one really can, that no one is invested in understanding your children like we are invested, and no one has the time nor energy nor sacrifice like we're willing to put in this way. And so that's why we are the answer. And sometimes we may look around and say, holy cow, this poor child, I'm the answer. Like, I don't have all the answers. And I think that's the challenge for us today as parents, is that we think somehow we've missed out on some big manual or some big training program or something that was meant to deliver us to all our answers. And the reality is that we don't. We just pay attention. We think about it. We talk about it. But we can find our way through. We didn't miss out on anything. We've got emotions. We've got instincts. We've got our intellect. We have our words. We can figure this out. So don't worry if your kids baffle you. My kids baffle me. I've got the science. Science doesn't answer all of this. You know, it's about, it's just, don't worry if, you know, your kids exhibit something one day and you're like, I don't know what that was. I think I blew it. Don't worry. I guarantee you they're going to do it 100 times over probably, you know, like you're going to have a temper tantrum the next day. You're going to have another night where they're not going to go to bed. You're going to have another clingy behavior, a time to get them to play, whatever it might be. You're going to face that same situation again with your kids, and you'll have a different answer, and that's okay. Change your mind, show up differently the next day. Nature's very forgiving if we just keep trying to show up and do our best here.
Perfect, Deborah. So I think that's all. I've got a lot more to cover, but we could be going on for a long time. So I just wanted to have a look. I know that we do have a question here live.
Sure.
I'll have a look if we have any orders, but I know Parent Coaching is asking, and I think that was related to when we were talking about COVID-19. She's saying,
yes,
I'm not sure about not explaining things to your children. All kids are different, and some may have questions, and if we aren't addressing that, it could result in more distress. Any thoughts on that?
I think she's right, or he's right. Yes, I think we need to developmentally consider where a child's at and what information we want to give them or expose them to. Like my kids who are teenagers are exposed to, I mean, we don't sit and watch the news. We don't have overload on, but they're very aware of the realities of COVID. We have conversations about that because they're teens, like they're almost adults. But a preschooler, I mean, it's just matter of fact kind of stuff. Yes, there's germs. We're just staying at home because the germs, or whatever story you wanted to tell them. Until they go away, then we'll go back outside and play. You know, we'll go to the park when the germs aren't there. The germs are visiting. The germs are going down the slide right now. We got to just wait till they're done on the slide, and then we'll have our turn. I mean, you could tell them whatever you wanted. You know, a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old's a little bit more sophisticated, so you change your story a little bit. And again, what do they need to hear? The adults will take care of you. This is why we're doing this, is because we are taking care of you. The other thing too, and we don't really talk about this, is that we have to be prepared that some people are going to get sick, or that we may know people who get sick. And you know, we've had that close to home for us. As a friend of my daughter's, her mother got very sick, and is through it now, but it was a very close call. And so the answer was yes, adults are going to get sick, and the doctors are there, and we'll take care of them. And we just have to, our doctors just can't handle all the people in the hospital, and our nurses, you know, so we just have to take it slow. We all have to wait in line, as it were, to go to get help if we need it. And so it's just going to move through, and this is why we're doing this. You know, and if your child does get sick, we'll have to lead through that too. Like, can you imagine there are parents here today that have to lead through when they may have COVID, or their child will. You have to lead. It's horrifying to think of, but lead we must. Yes, you're going to feel this way. Yes, we'll find a way through. We can't talk about what our biggest fears are. We have to lead through that. And, you know, my heart goes out to those parents who are in that situation. We may all be in that situation. And so, yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. But I can tell you this, showing up for our kids now is going to change who we are as parents in terms of understanding what it is that we truly have to offer our children, and hopefully seeing that in a new way, even though we may be full of our own frustration and whatnot. Just realize the futilities that we have on our doorstep, and please be gentle and patient with yourself, and you will know what it is that your children can hear and not hear, and just think developmentally and lead them through it. So yeah, I agree with the statement that this person said.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Deborah. I think I've kept you for long enough now. We're nearing the 1 hour time, and I know that it happened to me last time when I did a live. They cut you off. So I'm not going to let that happen again. Thank you so much. It's been very, very helpful, very insightful to talk to you. And now I have to read the Sorry Plane, and I've read your rest play grow about 3 or 4 times now. I always go back to it as reference.
Oh, thank you for that. And the Sorry Plane is just a children's book, so it's a very quick read. But thank you for having me, and all the best to all you and your beautiful families. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.